Hello and welcome to the Toshogu Podcast, where we break down the latest news, breakthroughs, and ideas shaping the future of artificial intelligence. Imagine waking up to a utility bill so astronomically high that it literally threatens to bankrupt your entire company.
Oh man, the ultimate nightmare.
Right, and all because someone, I don't know, left a faucet running in an empty guest house for a month. Well, in the enterprise tech world right now, uncontrolled AI agents are becoming that running faucet. We're officially moving away from the era of those isolated, flashy chatbots that can, write a quick poem for you.
Yeah, the honeymoon phase is over.
Exactly. We're entering the era of serious enterprise infrastructure. We're talking about standardized plumbing, native cost controls that keep CFOs from losing their minds, and billion-dollar financed megaprojects taking center stage. AI is growing up, and your tech stack is about to look very different. Let's begin.
You know, that running faucet analogy it's terrifyingly accurate if you look at the sheer panic happening in corporate IT departments lately.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, we are finally moving past the novelty phase. The entire industry is shifting into this grueling reality of figuring out how to actually run a global business on this technology without breaking the bank. Or, violating a dozen compliance rules along the way.
Which means we really need to talk about the plumbing today. Because you can't run a global business on a fragmented duct tape system where every tool speaks a completely different language.
No, you definitely can't.
And we are seeing this massive standardization happening under the hood right now, specifically driven by the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. I kind of see this as the moment the industry finally agrees on the shape of the pipes.
Yeah, the evolution of the new MCP specification into, real production-grade enterprise plumbing has been just staggering to watch. The biggest technical leap here is that it is now a stateless protocol.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, they have completely removed the protocol-level sessions and that initialized handshake that used to just bog everything down.
Let's actually unpack what that means for, a developer sitting at their desk on a Tuesday. Because the difference between stateful and stateless is pretty fundamental to how the internet operates.
It really is.
When a protocol is stateful, it's sort of like keeping a phone line open between a caller and an operator. Both sides have to constantly acknowledge each other. They have to remember what was just said and actually allocate memory to maintain that open line.
Right, the server's just constantly working to hold the connection.
Exactly. So if you have 1 million users, your servers are trying to maintain 1 million open phone lines all at once. It drains compute resources immensely and creates this massive bottleneck.
But by moving to a stateless protocol, you essentially hang up the phone. Every single request is entirely self-contained.
Just a one-off package.
Exactly. Think of it like sending a perfectly addressed, sealed envelope that contains everything the receiver needs to know to process that one request. The system doesn't need to keep a connection open or remember who you are from the last interaction. It just processes the envelope when it arrives, delivers the response, and moves on.
So it's much lighter.
Much later. The immediate result is that it scales infinitely better because you aren't paying a server tax to maintain idle connections.
Which is why they're stacking all these other enterprise-grade upgrades on top of it, right?
Oh yeah, they're packing it with features.
They've added header-based routing for faster traffic direction. They have cacheable list responses, so the system isn't constantly fetching the exact same data. And they are aggressively aligning with standard enterprise security, specifically OAuth and OIDC.
Which is huge for corporate adoption.
For sure. For anyone not elbow-deep in enterprise security architecture, OAuth and OIDC are essentially the standard digital ID badges that employees already use to log in securely every day.
Right, and integrating those standard digital ID badges is critical. I mean, before this, if an AI agent needed to summarize a secure document, the developer had to figure out some custom hacky way to prove the agent had permission to view that specific file.
Which is an absolute security nightmare.
Completely. But now, MCP plays nicely with the security infrastructure companies already have in place. An agent uses the exact same authorization flows a human employee would use.
That makes so much more sense.
Plus, they've standardized the extensions for tasks across all the updated software development kits. So whether your engineering team writes code in TypeScript, Python, Go, or C#, the methodology is completely uniform.
I keep coming back to the standardization of shipping containers.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Yeah, it fits perfectly. Before the 1950s, loading cargo onto a ship was a highly custom, incredibly dangerous game of Tetris. You had dock workers loading individual barrels, odd-sized crates, loose sacks of grain.
Takes forever.
Took weeks to load a single vessel. But once the global industry agreed on a standard steel box, the entire world changed. The cranes were built for the box. The trucks were built for the box.
The ships were redesigned for it.
Exactly. It lowered the operational barrier so dramatically that global trade just exploded. That steel box is exactly what MCP is doing for AI.
It really creates an ecosystem where everything fits together by default. Because AI agents are now standard containers, they can be seamlessly deployed behind standard load balancers, web application firewalls, and edge computing infrastructure.
No more duct tape.
Right. You no longer need a custom integration for every single internal tool. And the major players are forcing this standard into existence. Anthropic is heavily pushing this, rolling MCP out across their entire suite of Claude products.
Wow.
Yeah, and they recently noted that the protocol has already surpassed 400 million monthly SDK downloads.
Wait, 400 million? That is an undeniable tipping point.
It really is.
It forces everyone else's hand in the market. I mean, if Claude is making this their primary ecosystem standard, enterprise customers are going to start demanding MCP compatibility in every software procurement decision they make. If a vendor's software doesn't fit the shipping container, the enterprise simply won't buy it.
AWS is clearly seeing this shift too. They just added support for this new MCP through their Agent Core gateway. And the way they are handling this transition is incredibly smart, because they are addressing the single biggest fear in enterprise IT.
The migration itself.
Exactly. They allow for multi-version operation, client-by-client migration, and critical rollback support.
Avoiding the dreaded cutover weekend.
Yes, we all know that weekend.
Historically, upgrading a massive enterprise system meant the IT team would live on energy drinks, flip the switch on Sunday night, pray nothing breaks, and then panic on Monday morning when half the company can't log into the payroll system.
It's a career-ending event if it goes wrong.
Totally. Which is why big companies move so slowly.
But with AWS Agent Core Gateway enabling multi-version operation, that specific anxiety just vanishes. You can have older AI agents and newer agents running side by side, translating ordinary tools across versions simultaneously.
So no hard cutover.
None. A company can migrate a single department or even just a single application, test it thoroughly under real-world conditions, and if it fails, they just roll it back instantly. It reduces the implementation risk to near zero.
You know, this brings us to a fascinating paradox. If the infrastructure below the AI models is becoming this highly standardized, perfectly regulated plumbing system, it seems to me that the models themselves lose their lock-in power.
Yeah.
If connecting to a model is effortless because they all use the exact same pipes, model loyalty is dead. I can just swap Claude for Grok or a GBT model in a matter of seconds, depending on which one is cheaper or faster that day.
The technological moat completely evaporates. And this is exactly why the model creators are fiercely competing for distribution right now. They know the plumbing is standardized, so they have to embed themselves directly into where the human work is actually happening.
Right.
XAI is a perfect example of this aggressive distribution play. Grok 4.5 has officially entered the GitHub Copilot model picker.
Meaning developers don't have to leave their established workflows. They don't have to open a separate browser tab or change their coding interface.
Nope, it's just right there.
They just click a drop-down menu inside the tool they already use 8 hours a day and choose Grok instead of whatever model they were using yesterday. And XAI is pairing that convenience with ruthless direct API pricing.
It's a bloodbath.
It is. $2 per million input tokens and $6 per million output tokens. They are fighting a brutal price war for that developer real estate.
But fighting for developer real estate is just one front. XAI simultaneously launched something much broader called Build Mode, which is currently in early beta for their Super Grok-heavy subscribers across web, iOS, and Android platforms.
Build Mode takes the friction of creation down to practically zero.
Wow.
Just talk to it. You describe what you want in plain English, and it creates and publishes websites, apps, games, and interactive dashboards entirely from that conversation.
It's wild to watch.
It is, but I want to challenge this concept for a moment. If a marketing manager or, I don't know, a high school student can just talk to an AI on their phone and instantly spit out a fully published interactive dashboard, doesn't that destroy the fundamental value of software development?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right, like is the basic prototype now essentially worthless?
I'd say basic prototypes, landing pages, and internal utilities are absolutely becoming commodities. But it doesn't destroy the value of software development. It relocates that value much higher up the stack.
Okay, so the premium isn't in writing the code for a shiny user interface anymore.
Exactly. Because an isolated app that looks pretty doesn't actually run a business. A marketing manager might be able to generate a beautiful dashboard that predicts customer churn.
Which is impressive.
Super impressive. But the true value shifts towards system design and architecture. How does that conversational app securely connect to your proprietary customer database? What is the data integration strategy?
Right. How do you prevent that app from accidentally leaking sensitive financial data to the public?
Bingo. How do you deploy it safely across a global workforce? And most importantly, how do you measure its actual business outcome? The physical act of generating the app is free, but engineering it to survive and function securely in a corporate ecosystem is where the real premium lies.
But all of this commoditized creation introduces a massive secondary problem.
Oh, the sprawl.
Yes. If generating an application is practically free and anyone with a smartphone can do it, a company is going to wake up and find itself with 1,000 rogue AI-generated apps and internal dashboards built by different departments. Marketing has their own AI tools. HR built a custom screening app. Sales has a dozen agents crawling the web for leads.
It's an absolute nightmare for IT.
Managing that chaos, and more importantly, paying the server bills to run that chaos, is the real nightmare scenario for a CIO.
Which naturally forces the tech giants to step in and offer a centralized way to govern these systems. We are essentially watching the birth of the AI operating system.
Wow.
Microsoft, for instance, is defining this exact enterprise phase as frontier transformation. They are signaling to the market that the era of the cute, isolated pilot program is officially over.
Because customers don't want to buy a dozen disconnected copilots anymore. They want a nervous system.
Exactly.
Microsoft's new framework combines organizational knowledge, automated workflows, a trust platform for governance, their primary copilot, Microsoft IQ, and Agent 365. They are pitching a unified operating system where they dictate the rules of engagement for all these disparate tools.
And enterprise buyers require this overarching level of governance.
Yeah.
You simply cannot have rogue AI agents running around a Fortune 500 company's network without oversight.
No way.
These systems need continuous tuning. The company needs to guarantee they retain ownership of their organizational knowledge so it doesn't bleed into public training sets, and they require strict ROI measurement. Because without governance, these agents burn through compute cycles like a wildfire.
That compute burn is exactly why Google Cloud just announced major new tools built natively into Google Cloud budgets. They've introduced AI-specific early anomaly detection and firm spend caps, which brings me back to the running faucet analogy from earlier.
Oh yeah, fits perfectly here.
Variable AI consumption is notoriously unpredictable.
Unpredictable might be an understatement. Imagine an AI agent tasked with scraping competitor pricing across the web.
Okay.
If it hits a snag and gets stuck in a recursive loop, constantly retrying the same failed action, it could quietly generate thousands of API calls a minute while everyone is asleep.
And if you don't have a smart meter constantly checking for leaks, a startup could literally burn through their seed round over a single weekend. Just poof, gone. In the past, companies had to write custom policy scripts to try and catch this runaway AI spending, which was basically relying on digital duct tape to protect the treasury.
And those custom scripts frequently break, or they contain massive blind spots because they weren't updated when a new model was deployed.
Right.
When you are a mid-market company using large enterprise models like Google's Vertex AI or Gemini, you cannot rely on custom scripts to manage your cloud spend. What the industry calls AI FinOps, financial operations for AI, is now a mandatory piece of governance.
Google, making this native to their cloud architecture, means you don't need to rely on the duct tape anymore. The cloud budget enforces firm limits on its own. It's fascinating how rapidly variable AI consumption has escalated from an annoying IT quirk to a board-level operational concern. CFOs are demanding these native spend caps before they approve any AI deployment, period.
Managing your own internal budget and governing your own employees is only half the battle, though.
Right, there's the outside world.
Exactly. When you deploy systems at this scale, you run straight into the constraints of the macro environment. We have to look at how governments are regulating these models and how the industry physically intends to generate the electricity to power all this governed intelligence.
Let's tackle the regulatory side first, because the rules of the game are crystallizing fast. Meta just signed the EU AI Act Transparency Code for AI-generated content. This specifically focuses on labeling, detection, cross-industry standards, and C2PA-related work.
For those unfamiliar with the acronym, C2PA stands for the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity. It is essentially an open technical standard that acts like a digital watermark or a passport for digital content.
Like a tracking system.
Exactly. It securely traces exactly where an image or video came from, who created it, and whether artificial intelligence was used to alter it. Given concerns over deepfakes and election integrity, European regulators are pushing this hard.
The crucial takeaway here is that signing this transparency code isn't just a slick PR move by Meta to look responsible. Regulatory compliance in Europe is no longer a legal afterthought that you can just, tack on to the end of a software build right before launch.
Those days are long gone.
It is a strict foundational product requirement. If you are building an AI product today, provenance, labeling, and disclosure mechanisms must be baked into your software architecture from day one, or you simply cannot operate in the European market.
The legal guardrails dictate how the software is built, but the physical guardrails dictate the entire economy. We really have to talk about Meta's other massive announcement, which involves an unprecedented venture with BlackRock.
This one blew my mind.
Yeah, they are building a 1-gigawatt data center campus in El Paso, Texas, expected to come online in 2028.
1 gigawatt. That number is almost hard to wrap your head around. It is the power consumption of a major city, entirely dedicated to compute. The price tag for the El Paso project reflects that staggering scale, approximately $14 billion.
It's astronomical.
But here is the strategic question I have about this deal. Meta is a money-printing machine. They have billions in cash on their balance sheet. Why are they entering a capital structure where BlackRock-managed funds will own 80% of this facility, Meta only retains 20%, and they are utilizing substantial debt financing and long-term leases? Why not just write the check, avoid the debt, and own the whole thing outright?
It reveals a profound shift in how frontier AI infrastructure is evolving. These data centers are no longer just warehouses with servers in them. They require massive land acquisition, dedicated power substations, advanced liquid cooling systems, and thousands of miles of copper wire. They have become so massive and so capital-intensive that they are evolving into a specialized, financed asset class.
So it's not like buying a laptop anymore.
Not at all. It's much more like building a global railway network, an offshore oil rig, or an international airport.
And even hyperscalers. Literally, the wealthiest tech companies in human history cannot or will not carry every single physical asset directly on their own balance sheets.
Exactly.
Because if Meta paid for a $14 billion facility entirely in cash, it would sink the capital they desperately need for artificial intelligence research, acquiring top engineering talent, and core software development.
So they leverage the mechanisms of Wall Street. BlackRock brings the massive infrastructure funds and secures the debt financing from major banks. But BlackRock can only secure that debt because Meta guarantees the tenancy with a long-term lease.
So Meta is de-risking the loan.
Completely. Meta's ironclad agreement to rent the compute power provides the guaranteed, predictable cash flow that the banks need to underwrite those massive loans.
Meta gets to scale their compute power without destroying their liquidity, and BlackRock gets an incredibly stable, high-yield infrastructure asset backed by one of the most reliable companies on Earth. It completely proves that AI data centers are now foundational economic infrastructure.
When you look at the sheer amount of specialized capital required to build a 1-gigawatt facility, you realize that the future of AI isn't just being decided by software engineers in Silicon Valley. It's being structured by project finance lawyers and institutional investors in New York.
Let's step back and look at the through line of everything we've covered today, because the ecosystem is maturing at a breakneck pace. We started with the standardization of plumbing through the stateless MCP, which makes agents deployable anywhere without custom connections.
Right, the shipping containers.
We moved to the commoditization of creation, with tools like XAI's build mode turning prompt to app into a basic feature. We saw how Microsoft and Google are building governed operating systems and native FinOps to control the resulting chaos and prevent runaway cloud bills.
Plugging the leaky faucet.
Exactly. And finally, we looked at the macro level, where Meta and BlackRock are proving that the physical infrastructure powering all this is now a globally financed asset class, heavily shaped by European regulations.
When you piece all those elements together, it paints a very clear, almost sobering picture of where the commercial value actually lies right now.
Yeah.
The flashy novelty has been stripped away, leaving only the hard reality of enterprise execution.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with today. We've talked extensively about how easy it is to spin up an application now. You can talk to your phone and have a functional dashboard in seconds. But remember this, the prototype is now free. The business system is not.
That's the reality.
If you are building products or designing workflows today, you have to ask yourself a hard question. Are you still competing on building isolated tools and basic chat interfaces? Or are you preparing to build integrated, governed systems that actually outlast the next model update?
If you want to survive the standardization of this industry, building integrated governed systems is the only viable path forward.
That's all for today's episode of the Toshogu Podcast. If you enjoyed it, like this episode, subscribe, and join us next time for the latest in AI. Until then, keep building what outlives you.